I'd like to call this meeting to order, the special City Council meeting of Tuesday, September 5th. The clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Wilcott.
Here.
Vice Mayor Tandy.
Here.
Councilman Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Remley.
Here.
Councilmember Hayden.
Here.
Councilmember Winters.
Here.
Thank you.
And if you'll all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is a special meeting, as mentioned, for a very special, called for a very special purpose. I assume that there are no managers or attorneys or city clerks reports to that effect. And so at this time, I'll just ask real quickly if there is a call to the public, anyone from the public?
No, just on the particular item that we're discussing tonight.
Okay, very good. Then at this point, we will move forward with the agenda.
Mayor, I understand that there's a need possibly for an executive session to discuss the rules.
Please.
Mayor and Council, I requested last week that we have a very brief e-session so I can discuss some legal matters with Council and discuss the parameters of the process as it moves forward.
Very good. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we recess in attorney for a few minutes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to recess into executive session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We are in recess. All right, we'll call this meeting back to order. And at this time, I'm going to have the clerk kind of read the general rules of our procedure. And then I am going to ask that all of the candidates be sequestered during that question and answer period so that there's no unfair advantage to any one of you. So we'll make certain that staff is going to take you over to the community room. And the first person that will be here can stay here, and then the rest of it will go over to the community room until you're called. So at this time, Sherry, if you would proceed.
Thank you. So the itinerary for tonight's meeting is that the order of the interviews were determined by the order the applications were received. And so each applicant received all the same information. Any questions that were asked, I went ahead and answered the questions and sent them out to everyone so everyone has the same information. So each applicant's going to be given a maximum of 10 minutes to give an overall summary incorporating qualifications, resume, background, etc. And what I did was I gave them some bullet points of some previous process that we had some questions. So they can go ahead and put that all together into one presentation. When you're done with the presentation, the mayor is going to open it up for council questions after each interview. So that way it'll be fresh in their minds of what they want to ask each person. After that's done, we'll go on to the next person. And when everybody's done, then the mayor will open it up to public hearing and allow anyone that would like to speak. We do have a few that have filled out the forms, but it's a public hearing, so she'll open it up to see whoever would like to speak. So for this evening, there's no action taken, of course. There'll be a period of 7 days after tonight's meeting where we'll accept references, comments from the public. And as those come in, I'll share those with the council, and they'll be posted on the website where your applications are currently located. And that will end on September 12th, 5 p.m. Then the following week on September 19th is where we'll have council action on the regular council meeting for selection of a candidate to fill District 3 vacancy.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Sherry. So at this time, the first person before us will
Yes.
be.
And so the first person's going to be Randall Kidd. And so everyone else can follow out into the lobby. Christy and Mike Gent will be out there to show you to the overflow room. Mr. Kidd, yes, it's time for you to approach. So, Mayor, I'll be timing on my phone for 10 minutes.
Okay. Mr. Kidd, good evening.
Yes.
And welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening. And do you want me to go ahead and start or wait?
Yes, please start.
Okay. All right. Mayor Walcott and Council Member Tandy, Hall, Remley, and Winters. My name is Randall Kidd, and I currently work at the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind at the Phoenix Day School for the Deaf. I work daily with students in the high school level as a transition specialist, evaluating their skills through assessments and one-on-one interviews to identify the best fit of a career for those students. Prior to that, I was a small business owner based out of Arizona and New York. I graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology in New York with an associate in informal computing studies, and will graduate from Arizona State University this May with a Bachelor's of Science in Urban Planning. I currently possess a 3.9 GPA from ASU, and I intend to graduate with honors. I am also an alumni of the City Academy provided by the Human Services and Community Vitality Department here. And it was an experience that gave me more confirmation that the career choice I made was what I should have started with in the past. I moved to Arizona about 8 years ago. I lived previously in Tempe, then Sierra, Montana in Surprise. Last year, I became a homeowner for the first time when I purchased a house in Greer Ranch. In the 8 years I have lived in Surprise, I have seen a lot of changes and potential. I have seen a lot of struggles within the city. The budget comes to mind, especially in the 2010s and the teens, but I am a proud resident of Surprise, and I intend to give back to Surprise if I am appointed in Mr. Williams' place. Now we need to discuss qualifications. What can I provide as a resident of Surprise? I have customer service experience, both actual and implied. I worked in a call center in the late 2000s, handling video phone calls and interacting with different socioeconomic levels and cultures on a daily basis. I also worked with high school, and I can tell you that that has given me and the call center job a run in terms of daily discussions and disagreements. That gives me the ability to deal with various issues that come up brought on by Surprise residents and how to pinpoint the best avenues for a solution. While at those jobs, I prided myself in professionalism in many circumstances with a focus on giving back to my community. I've been involved with several nonprofit deaf organizations as a public relations director for the East Valley Association for the Deaf, and also I was vice president to the now inactive deaf community of Surprise. I also volunteer my time at my work being the academic bowl coach and attending regional and national tournaments. Another qualification is in my education field. Yes, I do not possess the degree in hand, but I have learned a lot about planning for the future to plan a city that works on all levels and how to ensure the public is participating in the planning process. That kind of input in a city council is invaluable, as I can see what and where the Planning and Zoning Commission is coming from, and to suggest ways to revive some of the lagging developments in Surprise. It is my belief that upcoming degrees in urban planning goes as far as any political science degrees, because this is not about politics per se, but to work together and plan correctly for a better Surprise. With the most up-to-date information that I am receiving and sharing with the council through my education, Surprise can benefit from our collaboration. Now, with my qualifications, what do I think we can do in Surprise? I know that the appointed position will only last until December 31st, 2018, so I do not plan on setting lofty goals, but there are goals as we as a city need to get for long term. Specifically in terms of District 3, I believe we need to roll up our sleeves and assess what the future holds for those vacant lots that are sprinkled throughout the district. I am of the belief that it costs the city more in the long run if we keep zoning and allowing private developers to build out their housing in far-reaching places. Zanjero Trails in District 3 is miles away from any type of retail and commercial zones. The same can be said for Asante, Desert Oasis, Rancho Mercado, and other developments currently in the pipeline. We need to focus on filling empty square miles by virtue of economic stimulation, incentives, and the like. As an example of infill development that we need to get going is the Posada development. At also 4 square miles, Posada was made the most important engine of District 3. Yet I have been seeing the same wilted Posada sign on the corner of Cactus and Surival since I moved here. We need to get together with the developers and ask them what we can do, considering that we have put this on a lower priority list than Australia Falls development in Goodyear. Nothing has come out of those developments aside from the auto show area in Surprise. We also need to focus on setting up better road conditions throughout the district, especially along Cactus from the 303 to Perryville due to Shadow Ridge High School and those half-mile long roads connecting the rest of the city to the 303. These roads are essential to development because those roads are the first thing people will see when they come up on the 303. I know that the bonds are coming up in this November, and hopefully those issues will fix those issues, but should not have to come down to a bond. This comes to the next issue I have on improving in Surprise. Improvement, the expansion of commercial and industrial opportunities. Those roads I mentioned are not built out due to the surrounding unbuilt parcels along the roads. What can we do as a council would be to help and expand the economic development department within the city and encourage more short-term incentives to promote more head of household type jobs. If I recall correctly, more than 75%, maybe even 85% of Surprise residents commute outside of the city because there is a very distinct shortage of jobs. By attracting more companies to the city, we will be able to restart the economic engine and let Surprise reach its biggest potential. One thing that I have noticed and will commit to improve if I am appointed is the tendency of the city of putting all of its eggs in the proverbial single basket. This is not a criticism of the current council. Most of the decisions have been made in the past. Examples include approving 4 square miles of land to a private developer in hopes of expanding Surprise's reputation, but to see that we were placed below Goodyear in importance, and then a recession did not help also. We also allowed a private developer to create a downtown for us, yet I also hear of litigations, settlements, and now disagreements on how downtown Surprise should be built. We also try to package a big basket of needs into a single bond, and only to see that fail. In my mind, those can be avoided if we do not go real big. That is a lesson we all need to learn from. The final goal I would establish is to start the framework for a public transit system within Surprise. We, as Maricopa County residents, pay Valley Metro for the bus transit system, yet we only have an express route serving downtown Phoenix a few times a day that provides very minimal benefits to the average Surprise resident. There are several routes that would have served us well if they were extended westward to Surprise, yet they remain where they are. My vision would be to request Valley Metro to provide more daily service along Bell and Thunderbird to the current park and ride in Old Town Surprise, and have a smaller bus system designed after Glendale's Gus or Tempe's Orbit services to serve the rest of the city, and to provide evidence to Valley Metro that there is economic benefit from serving the 10th largest city in Arizona as of 2010. If you ask about what I believe in the terms of budget, there are some adjustments that I would make for the 2019 budget. I would like to incorporate a semi-balanced budget in the sense that we also require a surplus to be built in to allow for a rainy day fund for the future, rather than balancing it out and hoping that transfer outs and surpluses from projects would save our necks in the future. We also need to expand the funding to the Economic Development Department because they are going to do the dirty work of attracting businesses and also tax revenues to Surprise. Mayor Walcott, Councilman Tandy, Hall, Hayden, Remley, and Winters, thank you for the opportunity to hear me out. I hope that I meet or exceed your expectations, and I hope you will all consider me for the appointment to the council seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, did you have questions? Anyone that would like to begin? I'll begin. Just to get the ball rolling. I appreciate your application, and I'm just very interested in how you go about making a decision and analyzing the data that is presented to you in order to make a decision. Oftentimes what we do here is stand at 60,000 feet and look down and try to make a decision that's good for the whole city, where individually council members represent a specific district. So analyzing the data, how do you go about making that decision that's right for the city?
Oh, yes. I would love to give you an example. Like, could you expand on that? Like what kind of data or what kind of decision?
Well, we are faced with any number of decisions every single evening that we meet together as a council. And we're provided a rather thick book that is filled with data, and that we have, we take the time to look at it. And so I would like to just have you expand a little bit more on how you go about making a decision.
Okay, yeah, my approach would be in decision making, would to first see how it would benefit the city, how it would benefit individuals, and make a list of the benefits as well as the negatives, and then so just have the pros and the cons listed out, and also see how that fits in the budget and how it would be best for the city, how it would impact the budget now and for the future, to analyze those type of that type of information. Also, I would also like to look at it from the community standpoint. Like, for example, I know that there's been some argument over the approval of, sorry, let me think what that's called, the development on Walcott and Reams, or Posada and Reams, sorry, and the pros and the cons there, and the other benefits to that area. So that would be, just one example is how I would look at that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Kidd. Thank you for your interest in District 3. Your ideas about transportation are right on. I agree with you on those. We need some public transportation in the city of Surprise. That's for sure. My question to you is, what do you believe are the 3 greatest challenges in District 3?
Okay, the economy for the District 3 would probably be number 1. The local retail chains and automotive, as well as, like, we cannot seem to provide enough for Surprise. And so, like in the Posada area, I know that's a big challenge right now in District 3. So that would be the first one. So what we have, the stores, the retail stores in the auto area. Also on and I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right, Zanjero Street, that area. I know that the emergency services out there is an issue, and we're looking at a way to how we can resolve that. And so we looking for, because it's kind of far, but we don't want it to cost too much to provide services out there. So I believe that's the second. And then third one is transportation. Like if there was bus service or anything that needs to be provided out there. So public transportation. So those are the top 3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Hayden.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Appreciate you taking an interest. You mentioned the bond, and do you feel that impact fees are a factor in the need for the bond?
Well, yes. For example, like if we have an impact fee, like for a road or something, then that would help us for long term. I would prefer not to do it on a road, but that's just an example there. So before we provide that, we need to figure out a way so it would benefit the economy.
Anyone else? Vice Mayor Tandy.
Thank you. So many questions I want to ask, but I want to try to get one in fast. I'm kind of curious. Do you plan, if you are appointed, do you plan to also run for continuation of the position?
I haven't decided that yet.
Okay, fair enough. And you did a good job of summarizing your priorities and things that the council is also working on at the same time. Are there any priorities that or passions that you have, interests that you have that really the council hasn't talked a lot or the city really needs to take a look at?
Probably my biggest passion is I would really like to see, it's also one of the reasons I'm running, would like to run, is I would like to see an expansion of the community center here. I'm not from a rich family, and I've been through difficult financial times in my life. And have you heard of the CAP program? Where they have grants for cities and states, and they do a fantastic job. And I just don't see enough of that sometimes. So I think there's a lot of people who need help, and right now it's quite limited. So I would like to see more help in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I think we've exhausted the questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, we just wanted to make a note, just to make sure that they're welcome to stay in here if they would like through all the presentations. And the next person up is going to be Patrick Duffy, and we're getting him right now.
Okay.
It should be 1 minute.
Good evening, Mr. Duffy. Welcome. Thank you
Hello,
for
how is
applying, and we'll let you get started.
All right, I appreciate it. First, I just want to thank everyone for allowing me to be here. I think it's an honor just to be here, just to speak in front of you guys. I'll give you some of my background. Like you already know, my name is Patrick Duffy. I was born in Arizona. I went to high school at Mountain Ridge High School in Arrowhead. I went to South Mountain Junior College after that and played baseball. But at that same time, I started coaching football at Mountain Ridge High School. So I would go to baseball practice in Tempe, 24th Street and Baseline, make the drive after to go coach football. And I did that at Mountain Ridge for 9 seasons. And then when my playing was over, I transferred to Arizona State, where I got a BA in political science. And while I was at ASU is when I got introduced to Surprise, because I actually worked for a landscaper, which was Pablo's Landscaping, and it was a Surprise resident by the name of Mark Martinez, who ended up coaching football at Shadow and then on to Hamilton and those things. But that's when I did a lot of homes, Sun City Grand, Arizona Traditions. And this is the Arizona Traditions before Willow Canyon was even built. So I kind of saw how that went. As that went, a lot of the residents had their opinions, and I was new to Surprise, so I just kind of listened and heard that. And that's before the 303 was even there. And then I lived in El Mirage right at Greenway and Dicer for a few years. But when I came and moved into a house out in Surprise Farms, of course, that's when the 303 started going. So I saw that traffic, that kind of stuff, and I heard a lot about that. So after the landscaping, this is when I applied for a job with City of Surprise Rec Sports. And this was 2008. And it's actually 9 years, I think Friday is how long I've been there. And before I go anywhere, I just want to say that department is outstanding. Applying for that job, even though it was a part-time job, is probably the best thing I ever did. Like, I've met so many people, and I actually got into finance through one of the parents who coached. He's the one that talked to me about it. He sponsored me to take the Series 7. He's the one that really got me into it. So I can say if it wasn't for that job with the city, that may not have ever happened. So being in recreation, youth sports, one of your biggest jobs really is customer service. So you're out there, usually you could do it every night if you wanted to, but a couple nights a week, and then for a long shift on a Saturday. And your job after everything's set up is you talk to coaches, umpires, parents. It can be about anything. I always prided myself in getting to know parents, coaches on a personal level, because I thought if you do it that way and maybe some issues came up, it was a lot easier to resolve it. If they knew you by name, if they knew how to approach you, things like that. And I made it easier for, I thought, umpires too. Because maybe if you know this coach, maybe he'll come to you before he starts squawking at an umpire. And you know the rules, so you could tell him, it's not worth arguing. You're pretty wrong here. So as you get to know them, they'll look at it and go, okay. They'll kind of respect that you understand how this works. You know the rules. We used to play the sport. So it was just an easy diffusion situation. to me, that was the best way I went about it, and I still do that. Like after tonight, I think I actually had to call in tonight. I was supposed to be out there, but maybe back on Friday, I'll be back. Soccer practice starts. My son plays Friday night, and games start on Saturday, so it's back to normal. So, and it wasn't just youth sports. Like I've done buddy ball. I've done the team dances, surprise party, which is a great event. The extravaganza, 4th of July. The first 4th of July I ever worked, I handed out surveys in the park. I don't recommend anybody doing that because I never did it again after that year. I said that was enough of that. I did the movie nights, and then, of course, our Cal Ripken baseball, and then all the tournaments we host in the summer. We do Babe Ruth, we do Ken Griffey World Series, Connie Mack qualifiers, and the tennis tournaments. I remember doing overnight security at the tennis center. This was way back, quite a while ago. So like I said, I've met hundreds of people through the city, Dysart employees, teachers, firefighters, police officers, and we've all had conversations about what's going on, some good, some bad, but you kind of take it all in and you start to learn this is how this person feels, this is how this person feels, and you kind of get a sense of maybe kind of what they want, and then you put your 2 cents in. You can't be afraid to just jump in. I mean, if people can't respect your opinion, then that's their issue. And then, of course, not all of them were from Surprise. You got El Mirage, you got Waddell, and then they'll talk about what it's like over there, City of El Mirage, White Tanks Little League, that kind of stuff. And then they'll give their opinion. So you find out how other programs are being run, and you say, well, maybe, and you give your ideas to our department here. Maybe you can try this and try that. But through that, I'll go a little faster. I know I'm taking a lot of time. I actually got an opportunity to work for the Texas Rangers, too, for 3 spring trainings in a row. And my job there was in the front. I ran errands. Nolan Ryan was president of the team back then. I ran errands for them. You controlled media coming in and out of the clubhouse. But more than that is I got to see how spring training operations were really run for 3 years in a row and how much work has to go into making that a success and everybody's part that they play in it. I used to bug on Mike Gonzalez and Joey Brazil, who do a good job with spring training. I used to bug them with questions all the time on how things work. So I did that. And then I started my career at Merrill Lynch. And even our office is 97th and Bell. But even then, I still stayed in Surprise. I've done financial seminars, Sun Village, Sun City Grand, Happy Trails. And I've also, every year I do a Sun City Grand's Oktoberfest, except for this year you kicked us out. No commercial. So we're not allowed back in there this time. But I've always respected the people in this city and built my business out here. I'd say 75% of my clients are Surprise residents, one way or another. Of course, I do a little bit in Festival, but that's Buckeye. But majority of my time is spent here in Surprise. And for 2 years, I did a program with Merrill Lynch where I worked out of the Bank of America on Bell and Grand. My last year was the bridge. So I got to see firsthand, because you hear it. The bridge is killing my business. I heard a lot of it, but I actually worked in it. So people would come in, and then there's another opportunity. You get to talk to them. Well, this is what I do. This is an easier way to go. It hasn't affected mine. Did it affect mine? No. I mean, it looks great now. I'm glad it was done. But I got to be there every day, working in it. So when people did ask me, I had an honest opinion of what I thought, because I have to work through it every day. But we got through that, and then I went back, of course, back to Merrill Lynch. So that's just a little bit of background. As far as there's some challenges, I know that question came up, and I know the big one is the Ottawa University, the downtown area, which I think is a great idea. And my take on that is there's a college there now. We have to want that college to be successful. There's sports programs there. We want those to be successful, because I'd like to take my son to a football game on a Saturday like my father did for us. So, but as far as building up around that, these are college kids. when any of these coaches go out to recruit players for this school, there's got to be selling points. How are you going to talk a kid? Don't go junior college or come here for 4 years. Well, the kid's going to come out here and he's 18 years old. They're going to look for stuff to do. So you need to sell them on that and make it easier on, because you want them to be successful. I know there's performance benchmarks and stuff for how the sports teams do. So you got to build that up and make kids want to come here. I think it's a great idea. This is now a city where you can you can start playing t-ball here. You can play high school here. You can now go to college here. If the growth keeps coming, you can work here and you can retire here. You honestly never have to leave. If it's done right, you never have to. You can call this a one-stop shop if you want. But
That is,
how
that
many
is time, Patrick.
That is it.
So sorry.
All right. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Thank you, Patrick.
No
we
problem.
all get on a roll at one time or other.
Yes.
So I'm going to just start. Thank you, first of all, for your application and for your interest in the city of Surprise, which clearly you've demonstrated. I wanted to ask what I intend to ask everybody is, how do you go about analyzing the data? And we see a lot of it, and we get presented with, every 2 weeks we get presented with this, and of course in between there's even more to analyze. How do you go about analyzing the data and making a decision that's right, not just for your district, but for the city as a whole?
Well, I think you have to look at maybe the economic conditions the city's in or the country as a whole, because in my business, that matters to everything. I mean, economics plays a huge role in what kind of funds I buy, what I do for my own clients. So you really got to get in there, take a look at it, and maybe see, okay, here was, maybe a budget for last year. However, I'll use rec. We've added a department. So can the same budget sustain maybe now what stuff they're doing for like Ottawa? And I'll make an example. So they're using the Kansas City Royals fields for practice. I understand that. So after every one of their practices, maintenance has to come out and redo those mounds. That's 8 bags of clay. Redragged field, it's manpower. So with those added responsibilities, can it sustain what maybe it was before, and maybe find ways to pay for that, things like that. I mean, it's the same, a lot of stuff we do is on municipal bonds that I've noticed, but those are a tough sell right now because of the interest rates. And with the Fed raising rates, I don't know, as rates go up, bond values go down. So the farther out a bond goes, the more it's going to get hurt when interest rates rise. But then there's the flip side of that. People who vote on those, who are maybe on a fixed income, and maybe these will, raise their property taxes. Well, with the rates as low as they are, how can I ask somebody to pay more when they're not getting anything in return? So you got to find that balance in market conditions and how you're going to do it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Mr. Duffy, thank you for stepping forward and trying to get this District 3 seat. I have a question for you. Since you're a financial whiz, I understand.
I can't give you any advice.
What do you believe is the most significant challenges of Surprise's 2018-2019 budget?
Okay, this one, it would have to be the pavement preservation. I mean, every year it kind of barely make it. What does it cost? $7 to $10 million annually to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Keep the roads in good shape. Okay, so, but if you look at out by Shadow Ridge, all those houses are going up. there's still no answer for Peoria Avenue. So now we got one way in and out. So, and it's all dirt over there. So, and then there's 365 miles of roads in the city. About that is from what I understand. And every year it's kind of, but as we're growing, how can we keep paying for that? I mean, is there different kinds of asphalt you can use? Is there rubberized? Is there other ways to go about it? So to me, that's it, because there's so much that needs to be done. Now, if the bond goes through, it kind of takes care of Waddell from Reams to 303, but still nothing for Peoria. So, but if the bond doesn't, then what do we do?
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks, Patrick,
No
for
problem.
taking the time and stepping up and showing the courage to try to vacate this seat. Appreciate it. My question is, District 3, you had a lot of analysis about District 5, which was good. You're very interested in the stadium and the Bell and Grand and Ottawa University, but what about District 3? What are the biggest challenges in District 3 that you see? Give me three of the top.
Okay, well, I still think Peoria Avenue
Okay,
is one of the biggest ones. And then if you go right into my neighborhood alone, Sarah Ann Ranch, 175th Avenue. You got Paradise Honors High School, now building a middle school. And that you're in one lane road, 175th Avenue.
mm-hmm.
So you can just in that in the morning is 2 bus pickups. So it is backed up really far, and that road is not in the best shape. And and then if you try to get on Waddell off that road, now you're merging in with Waddell traffic too. And if you go out the other way, it's just a 4-way stop on the cactus that was paved. So there's one there.
So that's 2.
And then the third one is, I wasn't going to bring it up, but maybe Prasada.
Okay.
People want to know. And I know they keep saying, well, maybe. But there's another thing. We need to give people a reason to stop here and not just continue on. So everyone kind of wonders when it's going to happen, if it ever happens, because with the new world of Amazon, putting a mall is a tough sell. And I'll be honest. I'd also like a gas station. If there's 4, I mean, I probably speak for the whole district when I say that Chevron and Marley Park is so busy. Just one. Just give me a quick trip.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
All right, you got it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Tandy.
Thanks. Got a couple questions. If you're chosen for this position, have you thought through whether or not you would plan to run in 2000 for the next cycle?
Oh, I absolutely would.
You would? Okay. And mine's similar to what Councilmember Hall was asking, but instead of just District 3, what are your top 3 priorities for the city? Things that the council may have talked about or maybe even hasn't talked about. What is your passion for the city? Something that maybe we've missed that maybe you can bring to the council and help us consider.
Okay, there's a couple of things I don't think you've missed. But one is, and it's talked about a lot, is competitive sports. That is one. I mean, travel baseball is the thing right now. And we have families that I see driving 60 miles to Big League Dreams for a weekend to play because we don't have anywhere for them to play. They go to Reach 11. They go to Rio Vista. They go to Victory Lane to play. There's nowhere for those type of clubs because we have our rec leagues and we use those fields. And to me, we've grown out of them. I mean, I've been out there 9 years. I've seen how it's progressed. They've grown out. But as for the competitive sports, and I think if you look at it to where I coached football and baseball, so I still stay in line with some of these teams. We lose a lot of kids to different high schools because I think when the parents travel and they jump on other travel teams, they start to get coached by other coaches, and we lose a lot of kids to other high schools. Well, that doesn't help. You're trying to keep these children, they're the future of this city. I mean, you want to keep them in here and around. So I'm big on competitive sports. I think, like I said, the travel baseball. there's just nowhere for them to go. Things like that.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, council? Thank you, Patrick.
All right, thank
Appreciate it
you.
very much.
Patrick, you're welcome
Patrick,
to.
you can stay
Mhm.
if you'd like. It's up to you if you'd like to stay and join the rest of the crowd.
The next person is Gary Doc Sullivan, and he's on his way.
Takes you a while to walk. Doing it.
Good evening, Doc. Thanks for stepping forward. It's a pleasure to see you. And if you would just please begin just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Is it still afternoon? Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Doc Sullivan. In July 2001, my lovely wife and I bought a house in Surprise and moved our family here. About a month and a half later, there was an article in the paper that the city council was looking for volunteers for what ended up being CDAB, Surprise Economic Development Advisory Board. My wife said, that's something you can do because of your background. And what we were doing was, our responsibilities were to help city council brand Surprise. What did we want here? What kind of businesses, what kind of culture, and that sort of thing. A couple months later, city council appointed me to the CDAB board. I have a passion for helping others, and that was the first step to get involved in Surprise. I was on that board from 2001 to late 2002. And in March of 2003, I was elected city councilman for District 3. As most of you know, who have been here for a while, that's about the time our population exploded. Our part-time counselors are now going to be full-time because there was no way being part-time we could keep up with what was happening. So during my 4.5 years on that city council, we are responsible for the swimming pool in the original town site, Dreamcatcher Park, the tennis stadium, improvements of roads, 2 high schools, and 5 fire departments or fire stations in 4.5 years. We were busy. We accomplished a lot, and we were proud of that. Fast forward to 2007, I retired from the banking industry and left City Hall. A couple months later, I established the first home loan modification company in the state of Arizona. We wanted to focus on just homes in Surprise because that's where I live. This is my town. Over the next 3 years, we saved over 600 homeowners from foreclosure. Again, my passion has always been to help others. Retired basically since 2012. And as you know, I'm very active in the community, will always be active in the community. Again, like to help people. Any other questions?
Doc, you've got several minutes left, so if you'd like to continue on to talk for you should use your time.
Yes, okay. In the last 5 or 6 years, I've been involved with aiding HOAs in the city who are having trouble with their finances, mostly due to water conservation. So I helped two HOAs resolve their water issues so they can afford to keep the lights on, so to speak. And that's pretty much what I do, is try to help other people. I'm a bowling coach. In the next week or so, I'll be interviewing with Ottawa University to be their bowling coach. Pretty cool. Something I've always wanted to do. San Diego State wanted to hire me, but I couldn't afford to move back to San Diego. So unless they're going to pay me gobs of money, which wasn't going to happen, it's a university. Pretty much that's it. You know, it's, duh. Besides the 2 high schools and the 5 fire stations, we're sitting in our biggest coup. We are responsible for this building, City Hall, as well as the police station across the way, and every salary that you people enjoy every month, you're welcome. That was us too. Don't know if I have anything more to say. It's pretty much, I had District 3 for 4.5 years, ran it very well, still have a lot of friends here. I'd like the opportunity to re-meet these folks. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. So if you'll just stand pat, we'll ask you a few questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm just going to start with asking you, and you've had experience doing this, but when we're presented with these big heavy manuals every 2 weeks, trying to wade through all of the documentation, and this is really just kind of this skims the surface, really. How do you go about analyzing the data that you see in order to make an informed decision?
Well, I like to do a little research. Obviously, that giant binder doesn't tell us everything we need to know. They kind of go over the basics, and here's what you have, and they give a presentation. I like to be informed. So I'll do a little research on whatever project or whatever that topic happens to be. We'd like to think we know everything. I'm here to tell you we don't. So I'll do a little research and get those answers.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon there, Doc. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Yourself?
Thanks for stepping up and trying to fill this District 3 seat. You said a little while ago you left the council. So why did you leave the council?
John Williams beat me in my re-election. And since that time, he and I have become pretty good friends. I helped him campaign on his next 2 elections. We're pretty good friends.
Okay. Why do you want to serve again as an elected official?
Well, like I said, I'm retired. I have plenty of time to do it. I've got the 40 hours a week that we had to establish back in 2004, and I still have more to give. I still have ideas. I still want to be involved and work with you folks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
Applying. What are the 3 biggest challenges in District 3 as you see them?
Well, I think we're addressing some of them with the next bond issue, and that's the improvements of the roads that have been ignored, I guess is the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Waddell and some of those, those are important. We have people that travel those roads every day. It'd be nice if they didn't have to have a 4-wheel drive to do it. That would be one. Probably get the people involved a little bit more than they are. So, I mean, they have questions. We'd like to be able to give them answers. And if they have questions we can't answer, we do a little research and get the answer for them.
Okay, that's two. Is there
That's two.
Another one?
Again, we're talking about roads. We're talking about 263 at this point is not in a real need for anything more than that. I mean, we've been lucky because over the last several years, we've been able to address those issues, the parks and that sort of thing. So I'd like to get the HOAs a little closer to everybody. I don't mean move this house, but get the HOA boards together. What are you experiencing? What are we experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle that? So we can, because we probably all have the same issues, the same problems, but I don't hear from Northwest Ranch. They don't hear from us. So maybe I'd like to establish a coffee time or a meeting time once a month with all those people and see if we can help each other solve whatever issues we're having.
Okay, thanks, Doc.
You bet.
Vice Mayor Tandy.
Thank you. If you're appointed to this position, would you intend to run at the next election?
August of 18?
Well, yes.
Yes, I would.
Okay. And the question about District 3 priorities, how about priorities citywide things, and don't just stick to things you don't have to, that the council has addressed or talked about, but do you have any passions or have you seen things that we may be missing as a council or as a city that need to be addressed citywide?
Citywide or District 3?
Citywide.
I think so. I think we all differ in opinions on some of the projects that come along from the developers or the landowners and whatever. And the good thing is, all of you talk it out. You may have a different opinion. Oh, I'm not going to approve that. And somebody else gives a talk about it and you go, oh, maybe I missed that. That's a good thing. We need to communicate. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Doc,
That
thank
it?
you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to take this with me.
Our
And
next
Doc, you can
applicant-
stick around if you'd like. Just
What's that?
you can stay in the room if you'd like. You don't have to leave.
Our next applicant is James Hodge, and he's on his way. Mayor, shall I share the information I just sent to you so
Yes.
everybody knows?
Yes.
So the live stream is not going out for Granicus. We're broadcasting on TV and Facebook. Granicus is still recording for the archives. Just want to let you guys know that.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Hodge.
Hello, how are you?
Well, thank you. Thanks for stepping up and being a part of our process this evening.
Of course, thanks for having me.
You bet.
All right. So, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Tandy, council member, and fellow applicants, thank you for your time today. My objective is to tell you why I would be the best candidate for the vacated District 3 council seat from the field of undoubtedly highly qualified applicants you see before you today. My family and I have lived in Surprise since July of 2009 and in District 3 since 2010. It was about a 2-year process for us to eventually make the move from Arizona to Illinois. We checked out just about every community in every West Valley town, from Glendale to Buckeye and Peoria to Avondale, but Surprise had a vibe that made it feel like home that we simply could not ignore. We did endless research on the town, its history, the schools, and recreation departments. Looking back all these years later, I couldn't imagine uprooting my family and moving them anywhere else. I work for Discount Tire Direct, which is the online shipping version of the Discount Tire Company. I'm an assistant manager of the live chat web forum departments there. I manage a system of web-based software for digital and instant communication, but I lead a team of 7 with their ages ranging from their early 60s to a part-time 22-year-old college student studying to be a teacher. The greatest attribute that has come from leading these diverse ages and personalities has been patience. Listening to learn instead of just to respond is another attribute that leading my team has taught me. In 2013, I co-founded the Sandra Lynn Foundation. This was a 501c3 nonprofit organization that assisted families that had lost a loved one and couldn't afford the funeral costs. The foundation, with the assistance of Surprise Funeral Care and fundraising efforts, helped multiple families in the area when there was a loss and their circumstances were much like my mom's when she passed. Knowing that my mom's name lived on after her death truly completed the mourning process from her passing. From 2010 to 2016, I was a volunteer youth coach here in Surprise. Mainly coach baseball, but I did also coach 2 years of youth flag football. I tried to make a personal connection with each of my players and their families to help me teach them new things, manage their own personalities, and also to leave a lasting impression on them moving forward in the future. On a side note, I just want to say, the players that participate, the families that commit, and the staff that organize the Surprise Recreation and Parks community are truly the salt of the earth here in Surprise. Thank you to Patrick for that as well. When I look at challenges in District 3, I think of a potential overpopulation problem at Shadow Ridge High School. This year, they had 900 incoming freshmen, which brought the total enrollment to the school at about 2,400 students, which is built for 2,800 students. With subdivisions being built to the immediate north and northwest of the school, Shadow Ridge could be at max capacity very soon. With the growth of Shadow Ridge and the expansion of Paradise Honors High School, Paradise Honors Middle Schools are in the same part of town. School days around 2:30 are highly congested in the area from Waddell, Cactus, Perryville, and 175th Avenues. Wider roads, alternate routes, and added traffic signals would all help ease this congestion. Once appointed, I would like to make this a top priority to look at potential ways to ease the traffic in this area. I would love to see more locally owned small businesses, from restaurants and shops and other businesses that are outside of the box, or in this case, the big box. No doubt big retailers and franchise locations bring in a ton of tax revenue and employ a lot of Surprise residents. However, locally owned small businesses do offer a hometown feel. It teaches the American dream that if you work hard, take risks, treat people fairly and with respect, that nothing's unachievable. Small businesses would be a great revenue source, employ Surprise residents, and also give our community, tourists, and visitors from other Valley cities more options compared to what they already have in their own backyards. I would like to see small businesses have a lower cost business license, possible first-year tax breaks, and access to any available city resource that's offered to them to help them thrive, or through a system of new resources that small businesses could co-op with moving forward. The most important responsibility elected or appointed officials have is delivering their residents a balanced budget each and every year. A balance of tax revenue, quality city services, and outstanding public safety departments should always be on top of that list. Surprise offers an amazing tax benefit of not taxing food at grocery stores, saving families hundreds of dollars a year, which broken down monthly and even weekly is that extra tank of gas, the ability to put funds on student lunch accounts, or even sign them up for a recreation and parks program. Residents would generally agree that a city must rely on tax revenue to function and offer these services. Our parks are beautiful. Our roads are smooth and clearly marked and lit with signage. We have some of the best baseball, softball, and multi-use facilities that I've ever seen. And of course, the crown jewel of Surprise, the Surprise Stadium, is the best spring training complex in the Valley, if not all of Major League Baseball. However, we must never lose the trust of our residents with irresponsibility. Instead of raising taxes, looking at budget cuts or redistribution of funds should always happen first. We must always spend responsibly, wisely, and on services and appointments that will continue to move Surprise in a positive direction. Excuse me. And finally, why do I want to be an elected, or in this point, an appointed official? I don't have any political experience. However, I do have 8+ years of Surprise Arizona experience. I've participated in endless city-sponsored functions, surprise parties, tree lightings, dive-in movies, fireworks displays, and countless spring training games. And I've always thought of myself as an ambassador to our city when speaking with friends and coworkers that live elsewhere in the Valley. Surprise does have a heartbeat. Surprise does have a sense of family and community involvement, and Surprise does have pride. Resigned Councilmember John Williams, whom I believe gave everything he had to try to make his home life and his civic duty work in harmony together with unyielding love and dedication to Surprise, stated this in his resignation letter. My hope, I opened the door for someone else, someone that reflects the ideals of the working family in District 3 and Surprise, a visionary that will look ahead and serve the greater good for our district and our city. Now, with all due respect to my fellow applicants, that's exactly the person that District 3 and Surprise will be getting when you appoint me to the council. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Tandy, and council members, I thank you for your time today. I look forward to working with each of you as a colleague in the city council, working for District 3 as the voice of their community, and also for the city that for the past 8 years has served me so well. Thank you for your time. I defer back to you for questions.
Thank you, James. I
Thank you.
appreciate you stepping forward and showing your interest in representing the city of Surprise on behalf of District 3. So I'll ask you the first question, which is quite simply, we are presented with kind of a Cliff Notes version of all the data that we need to peruse in order to make an informed decision.
Sure.
How do you go about making an informed decision? How do you process the data that you're given, or are you satisfied with the data that's there?
Well, it's irresponsible to be just satisfied with what's given to you. For me personally, I've always been able to itemize issues, itemize lines of anything. You know, when I have a to-do list, it's one at a time, not 10 things at once. I'd imagine that book has a lot of things that can be overwhelming and look like 10 things at once. However, broken down simply line by line, you can get through that data and understand it in a responsible way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Evening, Mr. Hodge. Thanks
Councilman.
for stepping up to the plate.
Thank you.
Very eloquent presentation you made. I
Thank
must
you.
say that. The question I have for you, you touched a little bit on in your presentation, but maybe you can get a little more detail. Why do you want to serve as an elected official on the City Council of Surprise?
Well, again, like I touched on in the presentation, I volunteered in the city on a youth level, which again, as I mentioned, is the salt of Surprise. Okay, the youth and the parents that participate in that. My son's 14, and I passed him over to high school. You know, so doing volunteer work for youth sports, something which I can still do. But now we look at it at a grander scale of where I can help my city even more. You know, being a voice for the residents that, quite frankly, some may not even know they have a council member in their district, or know how to get a hold of that person, or realize that we work for them as their voice, as a representative. So moving forward with that, knowing that my son is safe and his baseball career is going to be just fine where he is, it's time for me to look elsewhere to try to serve. And this, I feel, would be the best arena for that to happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, James, for that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember Hall.
I just want to summarize, because it was in your presentation, your three biggest goals for District 3, or biggest challenges, are traffic congestion.
Yep.
Okay. Relieving traffic congestion.
Relieving the congestion,
Yeah.
correct.
Small business advocacy.
Correct.
Okay. And budget, critical analysis of budgets.
Always making sure that it's right.
Okay.
Meaning not approving money and funds for one program that may not get as much participation and those funds needed elsewhere. The budget's been being passed. It's been great, you know, and just to continue with that responsibility of what's already been put in place by you folks moving forward.
Okay.
I would even throw in a fourth one on there. Even though I'm not coaching youth anymore, that would still be a dire concern of mine, is to make sure that our youth residents get out and play baseball, football, soccer, basketball, volleyball. Everything that the city offers has been a blessing for my son to be part of all these years. And man, I will never not advocate for that.
Okay. You are a director of a foundation. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. So the Sandra Lynn Foundation, it was a 501c3 foundation that did help folks, families that lost a loved one but couldn't afford funeral services. Surprise Funeral Care helped us out quite a bit, along with other fundraising efforts when we did have families approach us that needed the help of simply not being able to afford a funeral. One of the families we helped was their son, 19, 20 years old, unfortunately committed suicide, had him cremated, but couldn't bury him. So we helped them with the headstones and with the burial services and so forth. So even on that small of a scale, we were able to reach out to help those folks for that year that we did have the foundation.
I see.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Tandy, actually.
Thank you. I've got two questions. One is, if you are appointed, would you plan to run next year for the position?
If I'm appointed or not, I do plan on running next year, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question. Councilmember Hall kind of mentioned priorities for District 3. Can you also talk a little bit about priorities citywide? Maybe something that's a passion of yours, something that maybe council hasn't already talked about, or something we've missed, or just what one kind of extra thing can you add to the discussion?
Well, again, I mean, I've always believed that in this city government arena, folks are severely undereducated about what type of things actually happen inside these chambers. So to be an advocate, to simply know that inside these chambers are where things are voted on, like your budget. Like if you do have a city program that was there and now it's not, well, you could have been part of helping that. And to give the residents that knowledge and that understanding of what it is that we do here inside these chambers would be extremely important to me, because the side effect of that would be more people coming out to run, more people coming out to vote, and really more pride within each individual community, which would overflow into the city quite well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Remley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for coming out, Mr. Hodge.
Thank you.
It's admirable that others also would like to take on the mantle of councilman, because it is a lot of hard work.
Sure.
Requires a lot of time. I noticed that you've got full-time employment. How do you foresee that you'll be able to fulfill your council responsibilities at the same time as the other responsibilities that you have as a supervisor at that call center? That sounds like a pretty big job.
Right.
That you've got.
Well, Councilmember, thank you for asking. And to me, it's no different than balancing the daily routine of life that I've already been doing for the past 8 years within the city. 2 to 3 practices a week, 2 to 3 games a week. I mean, that's, and not to itemize the fact that this is the same as that. However, for commitment purposes go, I work for an outstanding company that understands that I have a life outside of work as well. To where if there was an event or a work session perhaps that I needed to be to, I can put the hours in there differently to make sure that I'm here. I have the full support of everybody there to make sure that I can make this work along with that work as well. So to answer your question shortly, just continue the balancing act.
Thank you. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but at the same time, I'm going, my goodness, you're talking about being pretty busy here.
Oh, sure. Well, keep in mind, my 14-year-old, he's playing baseball under someone else now, so I got more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All righty. Thank you very much, James. Appreciate your
Thank you,
application.
Mayor,
and
Vice
you
Mayor,
coming.
everyone. Thank you very much.
And James, if you'd like to stay in the room, you're welcome to stick around.
I believe I will. Thank you.
The next interview will be Giselle Norberg, and she's on her way.
Okay. She is or is not?
Giselle, just to let you know, I'll have a timer for your 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, Giselle. First of all, thank you for coming forward and your application, and we look forward to hearing from you. So you've got 10 minutes.
Great, thank you so much. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, it's good to be here tonight, or actually today, this afternoon. After reading the applications, it certainly appears that we are all here for the same reason, and that is to serve our district and our city. The main difference between me and the other applicants is that I also campaigned for this position last year. I was more than willing to put the time, energy, dedication, and commitment to be a voice to those in District 3 when this position became open. I decided to run for the position at that time because I firmly believed that the residents of District 3 needed representations and they were worth fighting for. I understand that others may have had reasons, circumstances that kept them from running, but we all do. Some may have had very little time, very little money, or no name recognition. I was actually running against a 2-term incumbent that by all accounts was very well liked. He had 9 years of name recognition, and that speaks a lot. I committed to District 3 last year, and I've never wavered from that decision. Even though I did not win, I celebrated every single vote that I received because those in District 3 recognized my passion and the qualities I represent. More importantly, I didn't disappear. I continued to play a proactive role in our city. I interviewed for the P&Z Commission, and with many thanks to our City Council and to your full support, I was appointed. But that is what dedication and commitment looks like. And with that said, I'm already prepared to launch my campaign in January, which is only 3 months after this appointment. It's amazing it's going by so fast. The commitment to the citizens in District 3 and the city as a whole doesn't stop there, though. District 3 wants someone that they can count on to be there, someone who represents not only them, but their demographic and the majority of the demographic in Surprise. To fully and completely serve this city and District 3, I will attend Chamber of Commerce meetings to forge a relationship with our business community. I will attend additional events in Surprise, such as grand openings and ribbon cutting ceremonies to support our business. I'm attending the HOA Academy and will attend HOA meetings regularly throughout my district. And as you all know, there's a lot of HOAs in our community. In addition to a monthly newsletter, I will also hold monthly meetings for my constituents to keep them fully informed on what's happening in our district and what's also happening in the city as a whole. I will listen to their questions and their concerns. I'll also have office hours so that I am present and available to those in my district. But one of the things that I'm very passionate about are our youth. I share my previous council member's passion for our youth, and I will be just as engaged and active with this demographic as he was. They are our future. I took the time to attend the Arizona League of Cities and Towns conference in Tucson just a couple of weeks ago, and the whole reason was to go to the session on our youth. It was exciting to see that Surprise leads one of the most respected youth councils in our state, and I would say probably even the entire nation. Considering that the dominant demographic in District 3 are families, we not only need someone that reflects that demographic, but we also need someone who is passionate about our youth, and I fit that role. Furthermore, I know that the city started a Women Leading Government initiative just last year that was kicked off by our own Mayor Wolcott and City Manager Bob Wigenroth, and I greatly appreciate the effort, and I would love to be a part of that. Both my children are planning to attend Arizona universities, so needless to say, my family and I are here for the long term. We are definitely invested. We represent this community and have an understanding of what families are looking for in a community. I'm someone that is known for, and I have a reputation of being easy to get along with. And I believe that's because I listen to others and I have respect and honor other people's opinions. When making decisions, I believe it's pertinent that we take all views into consideration. So I always make sure that I ask questions so I have no misunderstandings. I'm honest, trustworthy, and open-minded. Who am I? I'm Giselle Norberg. I'm a current Planning and Zoning Commissioner, a former candidate for District 3, an entrepreneur, a parent, a committed resident of our beautiful city's future, a true representative of the demographic of District 3. I am proud of this city. I am proud to reside in District 3. I'm excited for its future, and I am committed to serve. With that, it would be an honor to serve with each and every one of you. I respectfully ask that when you make your final vote on September 19th, that you take into consideration the votes and overwhelming support and confidence that the citizens in District 3 have for me that just voted for me 1 year ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. Thank you so much for stepping forward and your application this evening. So I'll just start off the questions, and I'm asking the same question of everyone. So and you know this because you get a book too, but we have a book every 2 weeks, and it is filled with decisions that we're being asked to make and filled with data that's present. And so I wanted to ask you about your analytical skill set and how you utilize the data, if you're satisfied with what you get. And if not, how you go about gathering additional data in order to make an informed decision.
That's a mouthful. Well, one of the things that I'm dedicated to is to make sure that I read and understand what I have in front of me. And if I don't understand it, is definitely to make sure that I talk to the proper people here at the city. I know that I would be limited, and I am limited when it comes to planning and zoning on who I can talk to. So it is probably, I would say, making sure that those questions I don't have answers to or don't understand, that I would seek wisdom with the proper people here at the city. And in addition, making sure that we're lining up with the 2035 plan and as well the city council's plan that they have in action as well. Let me make sure I answered the whole thing. Oh, if I don't understand anything, then, and I can't find it anywhere else, I will do research on my own.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Giselle. Giselle, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for coming and stepping up to the plate. I want to also thank you for last year running for that seat. I know it proved you had a lot of support in District 3. The question I want to ask you is, what do you believe are the 3 greatest challenges today in District 3?
Well, I actually have probably even more than 3. I do have the experience of going door to door last year and speaking specifically with the constituents in District 3. I would say that the biggest questions and concerns that most of them had, they do line up actually with the City Council strategic plan, and it's head of household jobs and shopping. Retail. They're having to go outside the city for their jobs, and they're having to go outside the city for some of their shopping. And it actually hurts the city of Surprise because that's happening. Some of the other things that they did say, schools came up and roads came up. But I would say that, we're where Prasada is. So everybody has that question of what's going on with Prasada and why can't we have more? They're looking for them all. Sad to say that, some of them are not happy to find out that we're not getting the biggest mall in America there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hayden.
Yeah, I noticed that you didn't mention the bond, and I just wanted to see where you're at on that issue.
On the bond, yeah, that is an issue definitely that a lot of people are talking about right now because we don't have what we need in our budget for our roads, for our fire, for our police, for the infrastructure. So it's definitely an issue. Am I allowed to answer, because I know that if you're in a certain position that you can't actually say, okay.
Ms. Berg, you're perfectly capable. You're an American citizen. You're free to state your position.
Okay. I'm always a little concerned because I want to make sure I'm not crossing any line that I'm not allowed to, being, P&Z or on here. So yeah, the bond is definitely something that we need to have because we don't have enough money in our budget for the roads that we have. The biggest issue in our district is Greenway, Waddell, Cactus, Peoria. Those are issues. And so if the money's not in our budget, we have no other choice but to put a bond to the voters in November.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Tandy.
Thank you. I'm going to ask two questions, and I think you probably alluded to the first one. Do you plan, if you're appointed, do you plan to run for this? It sounds like you are.
Yes,
Okay.
January 2nd, I think, is the first day I can turn my paperwork in.
Okay. And the second question I have is, are there any priorities or passions that you think the council needs to address or the city hasn't really maybe addressed yet that maybe you can add as a council member, part of the discussion so that we also get those ideas included as well?
I read the city council strategic plan, and I really do believe that everything that you have here does, all those priorities are the same issues that people in District 3 and the city as a whole have. I think that it really is all encompassing because you are talking about transportation, economic development, those head of household jobs, bringing in more retail, more businesses in the city of Surprise. The community lifestyle, that is definitely something that people are looking at, is making sure that this is the kind of place that they enjoy spending their time. We have the sustainability, which obviously is very important, and then tourism. I was a tourist before I became a citizen. And I think that where we're going with that and having a new tourism director is fantastic. I understand another one is going to be appointed here soon. Education and public safety, I think that really does encompass everything. The youth, again, is something that I'm very passionate about. Education was in here, but not to the level that I'd like to see when it comes to our youth. I would really like to see more of them be engaged with civic duty and with government and having that understanding of how this works. And I think that is really key because, again, they're going to be the ones sitting up here. And then there needs to be an understanding, and I'd like there to be a bigger pool of people that are involved in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Giselle, you may stay in the room while I think the last applicant is coming forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that would be Kevin Loken. And just to mention, in case I didn't do that earlier, we had one applicant withdraw yesterday, and that was Paul Daly.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Loken. Thank you very much for stepping up and for applying for this position this evening. And so we'll give you your full 10 minutes. And again, thank you so much for applying this evening.
Good evening. I'd actually like to start off by thanking you guys for allowing me to share my thoughts and consideration for this opportunity. So why do I want to serve on the city council? I've always been impressed with the city. And when I came across this opportunity to apply, I knew this was something that I really needed to be a part of. I've had conversations with my grandpa over many years about serving as city council, and I've never been in the right place or the right town, or it's never been the right time for my family. Thank you. And I'm a dad of 2 young boys. My mindset about where we live and the type of city that we live in has changed. We're starting to be active in the city. My son finished his first season of basketball here with Surprise and is now starting soccer. First game's on Saturday. Every experience I've had in the city has been great, and I'm excited to be a part of the community. And if selected, I'd be dedicated to keeping the city thriving. So why Surprise? When you have a young family, you have to do some research before you move into an area. What are the schools like? How safe it is? How clean it is, etc. While researching cities with my wife, we found a lot of things that we love about the city of Surprise. The parks and players are probably our favorite. There are plenty of places to take the kids out to be active for free, like basketball courts and soccer fields and splash pads. The parks are clean, safe, and well-maintained, at least in my experience. If I am selected, I'd be honored to play a role in keeping these areas available, safe, and well-maintained. Once we spent some time in the city, we were truly impressed with the people. Driving through the neighborhoods, people would wave at us. This is definitely something that was new to us since we grew up in California, and that pretty much never happened. Simple things like going to the grocery store and having the cashier spend extra time talking to myself and my family about the neighborhood, about their experience has been wonderful. Although Surprise is growing, it still feels like a small town, and that is something that I want to be a part of because it's really refreshing. It makes you feel at home and have a sense of community. And as a former college baseball player, I love the fact that we have the spring training sites right here, pretty much in walking distance. It ultimately comes down to the fact that we see Surprise as a place that we want to raise our boys. So you're probably wondering, what do I bring to the table? So I feel that the combination of my education and my work experience will serve me well in this role if selected. I was able to put myself through college while working full-time in transportation. The original plan was to get my degree in English in order to be a high school teacher and baseball coach. As it is with life, things don't always go as we planned. As I was finishing up my degree, I was promoted to a position that I really enjoyed. It was a supervisory role with a department that I was already working in. And I wanted to see where that would take my career. I received my degree, but put my teaching career on hold. It took a few years for me to decide that I wanted to go and get my master's degree. And that's when I went back to school. With my current career in mind, I decided to get my degree in management. This time I was going back to school with a full-time job and a family. So do I have the time to take on this role? I think the answer is simply yes. As within my schooling, I have the support of my wife, who is excited for this opportunity and is committed to the extra work that will be put upon her based on the time that I will need to do a great job for the city. I also have a flexible schedule with my work that allows me to work different hours when need, if it fits my needs. So what experience do I have? I spent 5 years in outside sales in the Valley, where I built long-term relationships with business owners, managers throughout the state. The ability to go out and build trust with people will be vital in building the support from District 3. I also have over 5 years of experience working with all levels of management, including directors and CEOs. I've been a part of and led large-scale projects that have included process improvement, customer experience improvements, future state mapping sessions, just to name a few. I have experience in working with a budget and meeting goals. These projects should give me the experience needed to come in and be a productive member of the City Council. Excuse me. The customer experience project was probably the most challenging and rewarding. We were tasked with improving the customer experience with our online process. The challenging aspect of this process was trying to get valuable feedback of what areas needed to be improved for the customer. We had to conduct panel roundtables, surveys, and questionnaires. Similar to the role I'm applying for, it really became about how do we implement what the majority of the customers wanted and feel to benefit most users. I've been managing in a culture where we utilize servant leadership. This is to say that I work for my direct reports, my boss works for me. This allows me to gather information and ideas from the employees doing the work and experiencing the day-to-day challenges on the job. This has proven to be very useful in capturing new ideas. This experience will serve me well in this role if I am selected, as I will work for the people of District 3. So what would I do if I was selected? As with most situations, I want to gather as much information as possible about current programs, problem areas that need to be addressed. I also want to hear from the district and make sure that I have a good understanding of what they are dealing with on a daily basis. Once I have all the information, I'll be able to prioritize the information or the issues with the most importance first.
As I like to multitask, I'll also be working in the background on ways to improve other items of concern. In all aspects of life, I'm a critical thinker and make careful decisions. I will continue to utilize these skills in this role if I am selected. Again, I just want to thank you for your time and for allowing me to share a little bit about myself and why I feel ready for this challenge.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so very much again for stepping forward this evening. So I'll just kick off the questions, and I'm asking the same question of every one of you, and that is, the council is provided with this nice little pamphlet every 2 weeks of information. And as you can see, the tabs are all basically represent a decision that the council has to make. So I wanted to get a better idea of your decision-making process, how you analyze the data before you make an informed decision.
Typically, it's about research. I need to find out what's going to benefit who and what and why. You need to take costs into account as well. Ultimately, it's about gathering as much information and drilling down to figure out what are our value propositions versus non-value add information that maybe we can not necessarily be in that decision. But when it comes down to me, it's about the facts. I want to see as much data as I possibly can and find out as much information as I can, whether I can research it, talk to people, and that sort of thing. I like to have as much information as I go. I don't like to skim through something and make a decision.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Kevin. Thanks a lot for sticking your neck out and coming up here trying to get this District 3 seat. The question I have for you, I realize you've only lived in a district for less than a year, but in your opinion, what do you believe are the 3 greatest challenges for District 3?
First and foremost, I think the major challenge is continue to see Surprise grow, but also control that growth, which will lead to traffic congestion and making sure that the infrastructure can handle that challenge. I think continuing to bring in revenue streams as empty lands are filling up with houses as we grow customers, as well as bringing in the right businesses. I think, everybody's got their opinion of what they'd like to see in the city, but making sure that we have the right companies in here, and as well as employment and places to spend that money.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Controlled growth and the right retail. What was the third one? The challenge?
The right retail, the controlled growth. Now I lost my train of thought.
We'll start over. Think about what's the 3 biggest challenges in district.
I think continue to grow is probably the biggest challenge that we need to do, as well as controlling that growth. So I probably combine the first 2 into.
Oh, I see. And so that's 2.
Yeah, that's
continuing the growth, but controlling.
Yes, and I think maintaining what the city is always keeping up the city's high standards as far as parks, kid programs, making sure that we have money for those types of things.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Remley.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, I too chime in. Thanks for sticking your neck out here. Kevin, you're the only applicant that just happens to be an alumni of the same school I graduated from, Cal State Fullerton. So I just wanted to point that out.
Very nice.
Great school.
Yes.
Great school.
Thank
you. You have a Master of Arts in Management, and your education background speaks for itself. Do you have any thoughts on the impact of Ottawa University to the city of Surprise?
I think it's actually a fantastic addition to the city. I think it's going to bring in probably a little different crowd than we're used to with the college kids coming in, and that's going to bring in some more temporary housing as far as possibly apartments and that thing to come there. But it's also a great place for the citizens of Surprise that their kids don't have to drive to Arizona State or one of the other universities to get a good education. So I think it brings some great opportunity for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Tandy.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first one is, if you're appointed to this position, would you intend to run for election?
Absolutely. I think that if I'm here and I'm doing a good job, I think the district deserves a chance to vote who they feel should take over this role.
Okay. And the second question is, do you have any passion or ideas of what maybe the city council or the city of Surprise is missing on a citywide basis that you could bring forward as being part of the discussion, and maybe we can focus on those as well then?
I think right now I probably don't have enough information to give you any great ideas at the moment, but I do come from a little different background, a little outside of Surprise, so I can definitely bring you maybe some ideas that you guys haven't brought and that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see no further questions. And so I appreciate, and speaking on behalf of the entire council, all of the applicants. You've done an amazing job. We are very blessed as a council to have such a tough decision because we have so many wonderful applicants for this seat. So I want to again thank you all for participating. And we will continue on with the process. I believe it's 7 days of input. Sherry, you want to go over that one more time?
Yes, absolutely. So after the meeting tonight, if anyone wants to send in their comments supporting any of the applicants, you can send me an email to clerk@surpriseaz.gov. Drop it by my office. Either way, they'll be posted on the website along with the applicants' resumes and applications that we already have online. And so that will close 5 p.m. on Tuesday, September 12th. Once we receive all the input, we'll send it over to the mayor and council. And then on September 19th, 6 p.m. regular council meeting, they'll have an action item to select someone that evening.
And I believe they'll be seated that evening as well.
So the city attorney and I were discussing that. We believe that the oath of office should be taken at the next meeting following.
Okay.
Approval of the applicant and then the next meeting for oath.
Okay, very good. Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all again. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to the council on this item?
Yes, and this is a public hearing, Mayor, so we do have two. The first person is Tracy Sawyer Sinkbell, and you do have 4 minutes. Please approach the podium.
Good evening, Tracy. If you would just speak into the microphone and identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Tandy, City Council, and Mr. Wingenroth. My name is Tracy Sawyer Sinkbill, and I am here to show my support for District 3 Council seat candidate Giselle Norberg. I am not here in my capacity as an elected official that I will make note later, but rather as a community member who sees a group of steadfast visionaries needing to make a difficult decision that is best for the constituents of District 3 and the City of Surprise as a whole. My belief is that the City Council is interested in moving forward, not looking back at things that haven't worked in the past. Forrest Gump has stated that life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Well, I know exactly what you're going to get with Ms. Norberg. Enthusiastic, dedicated, and passionate to the mission of the City of Surprise, to enhance the quality of life through the dedicated and efficient management of our resources, the value of our citizens, honesty and integrity, community pride and sense of commitment, professionalism and teamwork, and mutual respect are at the top of her list. Ms. Norberg symbolizes these values and so much more. Now, to put on my elected official hat just for a second. We strive to look for those that we can collaboratively work well with toward a common goal. We do not want someone that agrees with everything 100% of the time, but remains focused and committed 100% always. We want to work with an individual who sees the vision, knows the purpose, and isn't afraid to take a step forward. Be flexible yet firm. Her flexibility makes her able to be available to meet with the residents, attend meetings and subcommittee meetings, and be the representative that is strongly desired. I borrow a small group of words from each of your city profiles. Champion of fiscal accountability and responsibility, strong advocate, desire for the city of the Surprise to be a self-sustaining city, an advocate for public safety, a believer of strong leadership, partnership, increasing local veteran outreach and services, and passionate about linking people and neighborhoods. These groups of words are what stands out about you. And as I have had the privilege of meeting with Ms. Norberg on numerous occasions, I feel strongly she is what she is needed for District 3. Ms. Norberg is passionate about her community, family, and other families, and core values. What better person to put the boots on the ground, be a creative and innovative thinker, yet bring forth the ideas and thoughts of working with families. I urge you to take a strong look at what Ms. Norberg has to offer this booming city to the constituents of the district and invite her to sit beside of you, walk alongside you, and collaboratively work with you as the next District 3 counselor. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chris Cox.
Good evening, Mr. Cox. If you would identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. My name is Chris Cox. Do I need to give my home address?
No.
All right. Well, I am here to speak on behalf of Doc Sullivan. Doc has been my neighbor for the past 8 or 9 years, and he's been a resident of District 3 for over a decade and a half. Unlike many of the other applicants for this appointment, he has already served on city council before. He knows the effort that it takes. He knows what has to happen. He also knows a lot of people in the area. He's lived here for over a decade and a half. He has a good working relationship with many of the people. He also serves on our Homeowners Association Board of Directors. I have worked with him in that capacity for several years. He is knowledgeable, but he doesn't think that he knows it all already. He seeks out the answers. He comes into a situation perhaps with an opinion already formed, but he is open to new facts that he has not previously known. And if necessary, he will change that position. Working with our HOA board, he has helped us climb out of a hole. And he is working with us as we continue down that path, a golden path, to borrow a term from one of my favorite science fiction series. Sorry, I'm a geek, I admit it. Anyway, Doc has been good to work with. He does have strong opinions, but again, if necessary, if the facts warrant it, he will change those opinions and positions. But if they don't, he will stand firm. Anyway, I think he would be a valuable addition to the city council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
Thank you. Any other speakers wishing to speak? That is all the forms that I had, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. So this concludes item 1, which is the interview process. And again, we will continue to take input from the community until the closing date of
September 12th, 5 p.m.
September 12th at 5 p.m. So again, thank you all for coming. And at this time, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is related to this very item. So,
And yes, Mayor, this is consideration and action to formally accept District 3 Councilmember John Williams' letter of resignation dated August 15th, 2017.
is there a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we accept Councilman Williams' resignation from this council regretfully.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made and seconded to regretfully accept the resignation of our colleague John Williams from the City Council, which was dated August 15th, 2017. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. There is no further item on the agenda for this particular meeting. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we resign.
Do what?
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.